Inside the Chamber is brought to you by presenting sponsor, Naperville Bank and Trust.
Welcome to Inside the Chamber. My name is Kaylin Risvold, and I am President and CEO of the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce. And today we want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce launched a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in January of 2020, and we have some members here with us. The committee is chaired by Kim White, and committee members Lourdes Lonergan and Mina Banashek are here with us today to talk about the committee and ways that the Chamber can help diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you in the community can help as well. So thank you all for joining me, and I just want to go around and do some quick introductions of what you're doing and kind of why you joined the committee. Kim, as our chair, I'll start with you.
Great, thank you so much, Kaylin, for having us on today. My name is Kim White, and I am the chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And I tell you, I was thrilled when I met Kaylin, and one of the things that she wanted to do was to start this committee. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is critically important in all aspects of one's life, but especially when you're talking about in the workplace and in the business community. So I was, excited about becoming a part of the committee, and equally excited when you asked me to chair the committee. And we have a great committee, and I'm sure we'll get into more detail around what we're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mina.
Hi, my name is Mina Banashek, and I am the Director of Quality and Food Safety for Phoenix Packaging here in Naperville. I was, really very excited about joining this committee. It was, first off, a great way for me to get more involved with the Chamber, because I'd never been part of a committee before. And secondly, I was an unwitting beneficiary of a lot of diversity programs and policies at my previous job. And it had occurred to me that there wasn't necessarily that same pace of action and programming where I currently work. So I thought this would be a really great opportunity to partially influence what kinds of resources we can offer as a chamber to all of the businesses in our community, and then also be, once again, a recipient of some of the same.
Awesome, thank you. And Lourdes.
Good morning. I'm Lourdes Lonergan, and I'm the Director of Business Development for the YWCA of Metropolitan Chicago. And inclusion, diversity, and equity have been words that have been spoken for so long, for so many areas of business, of life, etc. And as part of the business development, we offer trainings, resources, and other things that will let individuals and businesses really look at things through a DEI lens. And as we all know, the things that have taken place have really brought all this to the forefront now. And so I would love to be part of this committee. It was great meeting Kim, because it gave me a voice to see how can we go ahead and provide information to individuals that can use these resources and trainings to look at the world through a different lens if they haven't already.
Absolutely. And the committee is, Kim, almost 20 members and counting now at this point.
Yeah, almost 20 members. Man, we just had a new person join recently. I think people really recognize and understand the need for it. And I'll just speak specifically to, obviously, our community. Naperville has been in the news for some things that have been going on. And so I think being able to show the not only our community, but our state at large, that we are a diverse and inclusive city. And so, bringing businesses on board to help them understand and bring awareness around why it's so important, so that we don't have the things that have happened in our community, so that we can make sure those things don't happen again. So we came together as a committee, and we came up with an impact statement. And that statement reads, the NACC Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee fosters an awareness and understanding of various perspectives and cultures to create a sense of community and belonging for all. So when you look at that, that's just an inclusive statement. It's about bringing everybody together and bringing that awareness.
And I've been in some of these committee meetings, and it's been wonderful to hear the passion of the committee members. I mean, getting to that statement was not easy because you're looking at things from so many different lenses. Talk to me about you coming up with the statement and why it's important to really have that goal.
Yeah, I'll turn that to Mina because Mina was really pretty involved in that statement and putting that statement together.
Sure. So, when Kim talks about what it means to create a sense of belonging and a sense of community, that was really a very poignant thing for me to reflect on because, I'm Indian as far as my my heritage and my culture, but I was born and raised in the U.S., so I have a bit of a sense of duality as to how I've carried myself and how I've advanced personally and professionally throughout my life. I've had to consider these as two separate things. And diversity programming has helped me to try to resolve that and find that I am not necessarily represented by each of my individual elements, but that I am a compilation of all of those things, and that all of those things put together make me who I am. And so when we look for ways to create inclusive environments and to give people that sense that they belong, it really depends on our ability to draw out the values that people hold and bring to every group that they interact with. That is, again, that representation of the whole of who they are. And I think that's really what we want to work toward as a committee, is to provide education and resources and dialogue starters to companies to help tease that out among their employees. Part of it requires self-reflection on the part of the individual if you haven't thought through what all those facets are that make you up. And then the next step there is to really grow that and capitalize on it to create a community within your workspace that works together so much more collaboratively.
Sure. And Lourdes, talk to us a little bit more about the committee's goals. And, the committee's meeting monthly, and sometimes even more than that recently, of just figuring out what the goal is and how the committee can help the chamber and the larger committee and the larger community really achieve those goals.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that really resonates with me, and I think with everybody in the committee, is that we all have had stories to tell, or we have been witness to stories that have happened. And so the ability to educate individuals, to kind of break down those barriers that make them feel a certain way towards a marginalized individual or community, just really have an awareness piece. And with events that have occurred, I think more and more people really want to turn to some place to provide them with either information or activities, or no longer being a silent bystander. And so the goal of our committee really is to go ahead and educate individuals in regards to all these different cultures, to bring awareness so that you can see that there really is a lot more that bind us than divide us, and be able to go ahead and embrace those differences. Once you embrace all those differences, you realize that we really have such a huge talent pool in all different aspects of the community. And then I think by having individuals recognize those things, it empowers them to do right and to do well and to do better. And what a better time now that as we're slowly re-emerging back into what used to be the normal day-to-day with a different focus.
And this is to any of you really, where does the chamber come in here? I think this is a conversation that the community as a whole needs to be having, but how can we help enact, I keep saying I want to enact lasting change. How can the chamber through the committee really help make a difference in the business world?
I'll say one thing in response to that, and I'm sure the others will chime in, but I didn't really know much about the chamber and what it meant and what it stood for when I started my job at Phoenix a couple years ago. And I kept coming to this understanding that it's a connector, it's a facilitator, it's a resource for the member companies that, if they don't have access to an expert or a consultant or a policy of some kind, that they can use the chamber to network and get access to those types of things. And the more that the chamber can promote and support this kind of programming that may not be pervasive across all of the member base, the more standard it becomes. It becomes the norm. It becomes what we want to achieve for the greater good of our community. And I think the really cool thing is you don't really even have to be a business owner or a member of the chamber to eventually reap the benefits of this kind of work, because I, just as much as I'm working at a member company of the chamber, I'm also a resident of Naperville. I have a neighborhood that I interact with. I have my family that I interact with, and everything that I'm learning and that I'm exposed to by way of the chamber's efforts, I'm going to be spreading just on my own within my own circles. And that's really what I would love to see happen as an outcome of this work.
Yeah, and I'll just add, everything you just said, Mina, is so on point, about the connecting piece and all of that. But also, I think, Kaylin, the Naperville Chamber is one of the premier chambers in the country. So really taking the lead in this is important. And so other chambers will look to what the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce is doing around this. Oftentimes, entering into that DEI space is dicey. Some people agree with it and believe in it and understand the importance of it, and others don't. So I think for the chamber to kind of take the lead in this, and then the things that will come out of it, I mean, you're setting the tone, I think, for other chambers in the country. So
well, thank you. And you said that it's dicey. Lourdes, I'll let you jump in here. Like, why is this even a topic of contention of having a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee? Or it could be, why?
Well, and that's it, because Naperville area being one of the largest cities outside of Chicago, it would be the best place to go ahead and showcase what best practices are for a chamber, so that members, so that the community, so others can realize that this really can be done. It has been done. There's what will be done. There's buy-in from so many community members, as well as businesses and other sectors within the community, that really will make this a reality and not a wish list. And so through the committee, we really do hope to offer either events, information, resources, trainings, whatever people are asking for. We will try to help put that in a place where they can go ahead and learn. Because once you empower yourself with that knowledge, it's like that ripple effect. You throw that pebble in the water and those circles will just keep growing and growing and growing. And why not showcase Naperville for what it can be and how great it is?
Yeah, and I want to jump in a little bit to speak to your question there, Kaylin, around why is it dicey? Because we just spent some time talking about how we mean to bring people together and create a sense of community and belonging, and why does that end up putting people on edge sometimes? And, if you think about the word diversity, it can be a charged word for some people for some reasons. And, it sounds like divergent. Again, it sounds like different. And I think, it may be just kind of human nature that we seek to find shared values and personal connections, and our instinct and our first effort at doing that is based on what we can see outwardly from someone's appearance, the first impression. And DE&I goes so much deeper than that. It gives you the tools and the ability to dig deeper and really understand the whole of a person and who they are from inside out, from their entire life's experiences. And that can be uncomfortable. It's not the kind of interaction you necessarily have in a few fleeting moments when you pass someone on the street. But at least within the confines of a business and in a conference room and in a meeting, those interactions and conversations can be more intimate. And I think that's what we as companies should be working toward, is creating the safe space for those deeper conversations to make deeper connections. And that's, to me, what DE&I is about. It's not about pointing out differences. It's just like Lourdes said, it's about identifying them and embracing them and making them valued. And I think, that's where people get a little on edge at first when they hear the word, but you really have to peel back the layers.
You do. And I just want to add one thing to that. When you look at the makeup of our committee, we are the epitome of diversity, equity, and inclusion, just on our committee. So, we all have a seat at the table. And to what you were just saying, Mina, I mean, we're bringing thoughts and ideas and trainings, and if you will, to businesses from a diverse lens just around the table, right? So that's been a good thing to see that take place, and the passion, as you mentioned, Kaylin, of our committee.
Yeah, and I think it kind of boils down also to the simple but difficult sometimes notion, but when you know better, you do better. And we're going to make it so there's no excuse that you don't know better. And I think that's really important for us to be able to do that. And thank you for your compliments about the chamber. It's great, but I'm really asking you these questions so I make sure that we can follow through on some of these things. You know, this committee wasn't created as a knee-jerk reaction to things that have happened. This committee was created in January because we knew it was a committee that was necessary. And I really want to provide meaningful information to our business community that, like you said, Mina, trickles out to our community as a whole. And we are such a loving, wonderful, gracious, giving community. I really want everybody to be able to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just, again, businesses benefit from that, right? If they are embracing that. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us here at Inside the Chamber. Any last thoughts or comments about the committee and kind of what we're hoping to achieve in our inaugural year here?
Well, if our meetings and the passion and the information shared that we have within our meetings is even shared outward to just the chamber members and then so on, I really do think that we will reach the goal of having everybody understand how important diversity, equity, and inclusion is in their everyday.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have some great, workshops planned. So we'll be putting that information out. Our very first one we did was DEI in the time of a pandemic. And so how to come out of this new normal, with the DEI lens. So we have some great things planned as we move forward through the year.
Absolutely. And Kim, thanks for the segue. Please check out naperville.net to learn more about the committee, learn who's on the committee, how to get involved, and see what programs we've got going on. We've already had one. We're going to have some more coming up thanks to the hard work of a great group of passionate people. So thank all of you, Mina, Lourdes, and Kim, for joining us here today and being on the committee and helping us enact that lasting change that is needed and that we want here. So thank you for joining us and being a part of this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Inside the Chamber is brought to you by presenting sponsor, Naperville Bank and Trust.
Naperville Bank and Trust has the expertise, knowledge, and experience to help you reach your business goals.
They provide all the tools that you would ask that we as a growing business need of a bank. Most importantly, to me, it's a great personal relationship we have with Tom and John and our bankers.
It was the best thing we could have done in banking. And banking can be very cold. What the bank brings to us is that warm feeling when you come into the bank and people say, "Hi, Greg."
It's about being part of the community again, about being a name again, about having credit for who your business is instead of just being a number.
Naperville Bank and Trust. Bring it home.
Inside the Chamber is brought to you by presenting sponsor, Naperville Bank and Trust.
Welcome back. It's time for our board spotlight. I'm here with Mike Blanton, Managing Director for BMO Harris Bank and first year Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors member. Welcome. And we want to hear a little bit more about you. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, Kaylin. And first, shout out to you for doing an incredible job navigating through this very, very tough operating environment. So, which is a great lead into why I'm on the board, because we're here for one reason, and that's to serve others, serve the community. So first year on the board, super excited. I kind of look back, our roots are in Naperville. My wife and I live here, raised our kids here. Undergraduate degree from North Central College many years ago. So to have the opportunity to serve on the board and give back to the community and partner with Naperville was a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's been just a few months, but it's been passionate, intense months here at the Chamber with a lot going on. Where do you think that you can see yourself in the board of directors really helping lead our business community here?
Sure. I think what you and the rest of the board have done a really good job of doing, and that is bringing in a good cross section of talent, whether it's community involvement, the legal side, the finance side, marketing, just kind of navigating through these interesting times, unique times. And so I think the board that we have is a highly dedicated board, good cross-section of skills. And I think when you pair that with a thriving community like Naperville and a caring board that is there to serve the interests of the community, I think that's a really powerful combination. So.
Yeah, I agree. We're definitely very fortunate to have an active board, active community, and members like you. And I mean, you've jumped in on the board and joined committees and really kind of been an active part. And why do you think it's important to be so active while you're on our board?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an opportunity for individuals that do have maybe a particular skill to use that talent, use that skill. And I think here we owe a duty, right, to our community. And so, for me, being able to apply, whether it's my finance background or law background or the CPA, being able to sit on a board with other individuals with one purpose, and that is to advance the interests of the businesses within Naperville. I think that is it's a good use of time, and I think that the return is outsized. It's an outsized return that you can capture with a pretty powerful and relatively small group.
Absolutely. And we are here to learn a little bit more about you. And you just said finance, law, and CPA. Can you elaborate on that background?
Yeah, way too much of a professional student. Probably, most people have these great hobbies of golf and all sorts of things, but I've never stopped going to school, starting with North Central. So I've continued to take classes forever. After my finance degree at North Central, got my MBA from DePaul, sat for the CPA exam shortly after that, went back to DePaul for my law degree. And so, again, it's an expensive hobby. Let me just tell you that. That's a very expensive hobby, but I enjoy it. And it puts me in a good position to help others too, which I value.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe your expensive hobby, but we're reaping the benefits, and we're very grateful and fortunate to have you on our board, not only helping the chamber, but helping our community as a whole. Well, thank you again so much for lending your talents to us here at the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce and in the community as well. We're grateful to have you on our team and just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, and thank you for the opportunity to serve with you and the other board members. It's been a real pleasure.
Inside the Chamber is brought to you by presenting sponsor, Naperville Bank and Trust.